Hopefully you all can hear me. Welcome. Welcome back to Monday after a break. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Today we're talking about mastery paths. And so mastery paths are a great tool to use for differentiation and for student choice. So mastery paths are not necessarily the easiest thing until you kind of understand the flow. So we're going to spend some time today looking at not only how you can use mastery paths, but also how to set one up. So if you want to just watch, that's great. If you want to try it, I will be giving you some time to create a mastery path altogether. But first, we're going to take a look at them. So I'm kind of resizing my screen, so bear with me. I don't mean to make anybody sick, but I need to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so first of all, mastery paths, and this is from the Canvas guides, they allow you to customize your student learning experiences. So it can be based on, like I said, student choice, or it can be based on how they do on an assessment or an assignment. And it will send them down a different path based on their score. So there are a few things that you have to have in a mastery path. But what I want to do first is I'm going to come over here into modules, into my demo course. And here's a mastery path example from the teacher's perspective. So the first thing that you have to have is kind of an introduction. This is available or viewed by everybody. Every student can see this overview page, or maybe it's a lesson or a movie, a YouTube video, or something, some content. But then when you're creating your mastery paths, you'll have what's called a source assignment. And what that source assignment is that assignment that everybody takes. And it can be an assignment, it can be a quiz, it can even be a discussion. But what it needs to be is something that will return a score, whether that's automatically by the computer, or whether that is teacher scored, like a discussion or an assignment. But that source assignment is what will determine which path the student will go down. So in this example, this is a quiz. It's worth 2 points. And if the student gets 100%, then they can do one path where they don't have to review the lesson. So they can just do today's lesson and today's assignment and today's discussion. But should they get less than 2 points, that means that they need a little bit of review. So those students will be sent down the review path first, and then jump into today's lesson. So, but if I'm a student who doesn't need that review, I don't even see path number 1. So I'm not going to be confused on, do I need to do this? But I already did it yesterday. Do I have to turn this in? I'm not sure. So it kind of takes that out of the mix. So you can see this path the way I've designed it as an instructor. You can see that I also have text headers in here that I have not published, so they are not visible by my students. That I'm using to help me know where my source assignment is, what is going to be path number 1, and then path number 2, which actually includes the path number 1, students will go down both. But as a student, let's take a look at this from the student's perspective. You can see as a student, all I see is the content page, the overview, and then it tells me that this quiz is locked until the fork in the road is graded. So I can see the fork in the road, but I've also set up my module so that my students have to complete all items in order. So I have to view this overview page. So I've got some content, a screenshot, some helpful links that I can go and learn more about. And if I come back to modules without going on the next button, you'll see that now, since I viewed that, I have access to this quiz. And this is for everybody. But everything else, if you remember everything else that was in that module, is locked until the quiz is graded. So let me leave student view real quick so that you can see right now in this basic mastery paths example module, I see 2 items and then it shows me that it's locked. So what's being hidden is everything down these review paths. If I had these text headers published, then my students would see those text headers because text headers cannot be they cannot be hidden in a mastery path. So if I went and I published these text headers, that could be confusing for students. I need them for my organizational memory, but you can see here as a student, I now see source assignment, review path, and today's lesson, which is confusing. So that's why I hid them. These are grayed out because, again, students are being forced, for lack of a better word, through the module in sequential order. So they can't have access to these, even the text headers, until they've completed them, but I also can't hide them completely. So let me leave student view and come back into my teacher view and go ahead and unpublish just the text headers. Because again, those are for me. When you're creating your mastery path, it helps in understanding where you are in your flow and sequence. And I mentioned that I had put in module requirements so that they have to view this, they have to submit this. If they get sent down the review path page, they have to view the review page and they have to view the review assignment. I can make that a submit. And if they get sent down today's lesson, it's view, view, and contribute. So coming over here to my module and clicking on edit, that's where I'm setting up these requirements. But the beauty of mastery paths is even though I've set up these requirements that they have to review or they have to view or look at the review page and they have to view the assignments, they won't be forced to have that as a requirement unless it's assigned to them through the mastery paths. So it kind of helps your workflow as the teacher because you don't have to go in and say, okay, these 5 students need the review path, so I'm only going to assign this review assignment to those 5 students. And everybody else needs to be assigned to all of these. That's a lot of manual labor and clicking that the mastery paths takes care of for you. So they will be automatically assigned these 2 items if they are sent down the review path, number 1. But if they can skip that path, they won't see it. It won't be required. It will not show up in their grade book. And they will only see today's lesson. So let's take a look at that from the student's view as we go through it. So again, I viewed my overview already. So now I can go ahead and jump into the quiz. And this is every student so far. So I'm going to jump into this mastery path quiz. And I'm going to take this quiz and it's computer graded. So in this case, once the student takes the quiz, the computer will automatically grade it and based on the score, will then open up the path for them. So I'm going to pretend I'm a student that does not need path number 1. I only need today's lesson. I don't need the review. So I'm going to get 100% on this quiz. So coffee is an important concept. Who makes the best coffee? Well, of course, our local coffee shop. And what's the most important ingredient? Just the beans, make them organic. So as a student who understood yesterday's lesson on coffee, I can submit this quiz. You can see that I got 100%. I do have the ability to take the quiz again because I set that up in the quiz instructions in case I'm somebody who needs a review and wants to come back and retry their efforts. But here, when I hover over the next, it says that the path is still processing, so please periodically refresh the page. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because what it's doing is it's looking at the score and saying, okay, this student got 2 out of 2. Now, when I hover over the next button, notice that I see today's lesson is the next thing that I'm going to. But if you remember, when I come back as a student and look at modules, all I see now is the quiz that I just took. I see today's lesson and today's assignment that I can't access until I look at today's lesson because, again, the module requirements are in play along with the mastery path. But I don't see anything about the review. Okay, so I can come in to today's lesson, which is just to view it. So again, I have my content, I have some resources, I have embedded items. So notice that instead of putting this PDF as a link in the module, I actually embedded it in a page. And that is key because in Mastery Paths, you can only put in Canvas native items. So if you want something that is like a link or a PDF or even a Word document, instead of just putting those in modules, you would actually create a page and put the link on the page and embed the PDF or the Word document right on that page so that it can be part of the mastery path. Okay, so when I click on next, here's today's assignment. And you can see that I can submit a text entry or I can record media right here in Canvas, but that's today's assignment. And coming back to modules as a student, those are the only things that I'm required to do for this module. And also, if I were to come in here to grades and take a look at my grades, and we're going to arrange by module, you'll see there's a lot of grades in here, but we're looking at this mastery path, fork in the road. That's the part of that module. And then the assignment, which I hadn't submitted yet, so I don't have any grade there yet. But I don't see the review path assignments in my grades. It's not a part of my grade book. So as a student, I'm not going to be confused and think that I haven't turned in something that I wasn't even really supposed to have to do because I was able to jump past the review and go straight down to today's lesson. So again, let's leave student view. This basic mastery paths example, here it is from the teacher's view. Any questions on how that kind of works before we get into the nitty-gritty? You can grab the mic or you can type your questions in the chat. Okay. So there's a couple of things when we're setting up our modules. So again, if you want everybody to be able to see it, then it's not going to be put inside a path. So I have my overview and I have my source assignment. These two items are assigned to everybody. So when I come into my page for the overview, one of the things that you have to do if you want to include a page in Mastery Paths is you actually have to assign it. And this one I want everyone because this is the content overview of the module. So I'm going to make sure this is assigned to everyone. However, the page that is part of my review path should only be assigned to students who are sent down this path number 1. So when I come into my review page, and you can access this in a couple of ways. I haven't gone into edit yet, but I've already created the page and now I need to assign it to, so I'm going to click on add and I'm going to assign this to Mastery Paths. So again, Canvas is doing the legwork by if they're sent down path number 1, then they'll see this. So you're not putting in students individually or even as groups, you're assigning it to the Mastery Path. And then Canvas will do that assignment on the fly. So I'm going to click on save. So the next thing in my module is the review assignment. So again, I want to make sure that this is assigned to Mastery Paths because not everybody is going to have to do this assignment, only students who are sent down path number 1. So I'm going to assign it to Mastery Paths. Now, I could also do this within the assignment itself. I'm going to click on edit and come down here to the bottom details where you see assign access. So I can do it here as well. I can either assign it to everybody or I can assign it to Mastery Paths or individual students. So it's the same task and just in different locations. So then as a instructor, when I look at path number 2, which is today's lesson, again, I can assign it here. And even though I want everybody to do today's lesson, I still want it to be part of a path. And I'm just going to have students do path 1 and path 2 if they need review. Or students, if they don't need the review, they're going to skip path 1 and just do path 2. So it still needs to be part of mastery paths, even though everybody will eventually do it. So I could do the assign to just like I did last time, or I can come into edit. And you can see here on pages, and if you've been with Canvas for a while, this looks new, I can assign access to mastery paths here in the edit view as well. But the key is it needs to be assigned to mastery paths. So when you're building your mastery paths, one of the things that I want to make sure everybody knows, this is not something that you can do on the fly, just one step ahead of the students. You need to develop the module ahead of time so that you can create these paths and have them work. Because if you come in after students have already started the module and maybe they've already gone down a path and you throw in an item that you want to be a part of that path, it may not work. The functionality may not work correctly. So they may be missing it, or they might get it if they're not part of that path. So just it's better to have this completely thought out and created before you start assigning students to the mastery path. They also have to be part of modules. Modules is what controls the path. So you can't just assign pages to mastery paths and then try and come into your pages link or your assignments link and do a mastery path from there. It must be put in the order in a module. And you can see here I have several different modules, and these are all different examples of mastery paths that I'm going to show you. So it could be something where you're mid-semester and you want to create a module that has some differentiation or student choice. You can then create that module with your items and then have students go down it, even though it's mid-semester, but the module itself must be created in the whole in order for it to work the way it's supposed to work. So again, you can see this is an overview example. It's assigned to everybody. This is the mastery path source assignment. So this is the one that everybody takes, and it determines the path that the students go down. Then you can see here that it has my path number 1, and you can see that it's released. These are called conditional items. So they are only released to students who are sent down this path number 1. And then path number 2 is the same. The difference here, you can see multiple. That's because students can go down different paths based on the way you set it up. So I will have some students who will do both path 1 and path 2. And then some students who will only do path 2. So it's included in multiple paths. So you can see that indication here. And then this August 30th path discussion, we didn't see that show up when I was in student view because it's not assigned to the module yet, or to the mastery path yet. So that's why it's so important that you've got all of these steps. So the way I usually do my workflow is I create the entire module, and I use text headers to help me know where my different paths are. And then I'll go back and put everything together and make sure that they're assigned to mastery paths if they're supposed to be, and that they're included in the mastery path that they're supposed to be included in. So how does Canvas know which items go into path 1 and which items go into path 2? Okay, that's where I would come back to this source assignment and add these items in. So I'm going to click on source assignment. Does the mastery paths have the function to release a second module? That's a great question. And yes, I believe we can do that. But I'll show you one way that we can make that, even if it's not the mastery path. So you can have your source assignment be in a different module that will then open up the next module. And I'll show you how to do that. But I'm looking at this from this teacher's perspective. you can see that it shows my mastery paths breakdown and who I have. 1 out of 1 student who's taken this quiz has been sent down path number 1. I'm going to come in here to edit, and this is a classic quiz. But you'll see that I've got tabs up here, and one of them is my Mastery Paths tab. So if you have an assignment that is the start of your source assignment, and you have it as be that source assignment, you'll see the Mastery Paths tab. This Mastery Paths tab is where you tell Canvas what's going to go down, what is going to be assigned to which path. You have 3 by default. But you don't have to use all 3. So you'll see that I just have 2 paths. I have my review path where they're going to do the review page. And you'll also see that these are not in order. And that is key as well, because remember that modules will control the flow, whereas this Mastery Paths tab will just control the what. So I don't have to worry about it being in order on this screen because my modules has it in order that my students are going to go through it. So I can have in this screen the review page, the today's lessons page, and then the 2 assignments. But they're not going to go through it in that order. They're going to go through it in the order that the module says. But they're going to do all 4 things. My students who got more than 1.5 points, and at least, they scored between 1.5 and 2, they're only going to be required to do today's lesson, today's assignment, and then explore with your peers discussion. Now, that didn't show up. So I can come here to the 3 dots and go directly into that discussion here to make sure that I set it up correctly, because it didn't show up when I tested it in Student View. And you can see the reason why, if I come down here, oh, it is assigned to Mastery Paths. So it should have shown up. We're going to delete this one so that it doesn't have anything confusing. So that, again, is where if you want a discussion to be a part of just one of your groups, which is a great way for your students to work in groups and be automatically assigned the discussion based on the mastery path, rather than you having to go in and assign students to the discussions, you assign it to the mastery path. So let's do that and save it. This is just a warning, not everyone will be assigned the item, and that's correct because not everyone might be going down this mastery path. Okay, so that, again, I did that in the edit screen, but I could also do the assign to here as well. I'm going to come back to my source assignment, and this is where you're setting up what is going to be part of what. So again, in order for it to be part of a mastery path, you have to make sure that whether you're in edit or you are just in the view screen, you're assigning it to the mastery path. Then you have to come into the source assignment and place it on the path that you want it to be a part of. So several steps that you have to work through in order to make mastery paths function. So the question is, does a mastery path have the function to release a second module? So here's an example. Let me go back into view as a student, and I'm going to go ahead and reset my student so that we're looking at this from the beginning. And as my student, I'm going to come into modules, and you'll see that this has been reset. But let's come down here to use to control early access. So this is kind of answering your question, but basically what I did here is I have a source assignment to grant access. So there's several things in this module, but I don't want my students to even see what they are. Even if I had it set up so that my module controlled when they accessed it, whether it's by a date or a time or after they've completed something else, I just don't even want them to see what the items are in that module. So using a mastery path, even though I only have one path, is a way to do that. So as a student, I can come into the source assignment, and this is an assignment that the teacher will manually grade. They may or may not have anything that they are submitting, but you can see that I can't access anything in this module until my teacher has graded this. So if I leave student view here's that same assignment. I can come into SpeedGrader and I can say test student did complete it. So I'm going to give them a complete grade. Okay. So I'm going to get out of SpeedGrader and we're going to come back into this as a student. So now my assignment's graded. Now that it's graded, I can go on to the next page. And if I take a look at modules, you can see here that there's two assignments, a page, and a discussion that I didn't know was there until my teacher gave me access by making that source assignment complete. And so now I can go and work through the module. And this one doesn't have any requirements on it, module requirements like view or submit or anything like that, because the mastery path is controlling that instead of using both mastery paths and modules. So you can do set that up however it works for you. So as the question, does the mastery path have the function to release a second module? I've not tried that yet, but my thinking would be that this source assignment would be in another module, and these all would be part of a mastery path. So they'll see the module, but they'll see that it's locked. So let's try that. I'm going to go ahead and leave student view, and let's take this mastery paths source assignment. This is the one that we just did, and we're going to put it up here in the module above it. Now you can see that these are all still part of my mastery path. The source assignment is now up in a different module. Okay. So going into student view, and let's reset the student view so that we know we're looking at it from fresh eyes. Okay. Coming into modules, I'm going to minimize that. Here's that module where we put the source assignment to grant access. And you can see that there's nothing in this module, right? I don't see anything in this module. The warning thing is here, which could be kind of confusing, but source assignment to grant access. I'm going to go ahead and leave student view so that I can score this again to grant them access. So we're going to come into SpeedGrader and complete it. So now coming back into, let's take a look at modules as a student to see if it opened up that. So here's my source assignment. And then when I expand on this, oh, it didn't. So I think I got so it says complete. And my next, yeah, no, it doesn't. That, I had not tried that before. So that doesn't work. It does need to be, the source assignment needs to be, because you can see here, these are the items for the mastery path. The source assignment does need to be in the mastery path module. Good question. And thank you for helping me clarify that. But again, you could make this source assignment not accessible, whether it's a source assignment or, where you grade it or a quiz or whatever. We are going to lock it. You can either do it by date or time, or you can make a prerequisite. So they have to complete the Mastery Path example module successfully before they can gain access to this module. So now you can see there's a prerequisite. And when we go into student view, I haven't completed this yet, so I will not be able to access this yet. Although I already was graded, so I have access, but if I were to reset it, yeah. So that's a way around it. So that's a lot. Let me just show you a couple of examples and then we'll create one together. Okay, so I showed you the early access. Here's one where I'm giving students a choice. So this is actually done with new quizzes, which I really like, because new quizzes has the ability where you can ask one question and give them different scores based on their answer. And so I've set this up so that they are going to choose which book they want to do a report on. And then I'm going to give them another choice on whether they want to do a project or an essay. Now, notice that everybody has access to the final project submission, because in the end, I want them to submit their project no matter what book they chose or what method of work they're going to choose. So I did give them access to that. But I'm going to come in here to the new quiz, which always takes a minute to load, and always put in this disclaimer: the quiz will not factor into your final grade. It's simply a method of facilitating your mastery path choice, so that they know that even though it says it's a right answer or a wrong answer, it's not really counting that way. It's just a method of Canvas giving them different scores, but it's limited because it's a quiz type thing. So, and you can't do a survey because that's, either complete or not complete. And I wanted the different scoring. So I have 3 books, and I'm thinking of 9th grade English, so they can choose a novel for their final project. It can be Lord of the Flies, Frankenstein, or Night. So instead of asking them a whole bunch of questions to get to a score that will release the path based on their score, using new quizzes, if they choose Lord of the Flies, they'll get 3 points. If they choose Frankenstein, they'll get 2 points. And if they choose Night, they'll get 1 point. Even though that's not right or wrong, it's going to determine which path to send them down. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Frankenstein. Okay, so this is my choice. I'm not limited to just one book. And yes, I want to submit my answer. And remember that it's not a score that will be put in the grade book. So even though it looks like it's wrong, it really isn't. And then I'm going to return get out of the quiz and get back into my module progression. Okay, and you'll see now under next, let's refresh that. I thought I fixed it, but maybe I didn't. Let's come back to modules and take a look. It should just show me the Frankenstein items. So it says I completed it, but it hasn't unlocked all my student choices. So let's go in and take a look. I know I fixed this, but I'm going to need to look at this from the teacher's perspective. So again, looking at the assignment settings themselves. We want to make sure that this is assigned to everyone because it's the source assignment, and it is. We also want to make sure that it has set up the mastery paths. So again, even though it's a new quiz, it has this mastery paths tab, and you can see that if they get 0 to 1, they'll be sent down the Night path. If they get over 1 point to under 2 points, they'll get the Frankenstein path. And if they get over 2 points to 3 points, they'll get the Lord of the Flies path. So all of that is set up correctly. So we're going to save it and come back into modules and take a look at that again. Sometimes it takes a minute for Canvas to process the data. See, now it has it. So I just didn't wait long enough. So I completed my choice. I chose Frankenstein. So now I have the Frankenstein path. So let me come in and take a look at, these are the report instructions. If I want to do a website, these are the instructions. And then I'm going to do a proposal because I want to tell my teacher whether I want to do a website or an essay, a book report. And so again, not only do I have the ability to choose the book, I now have the ability to choose what I'm going to present. And so I'm going to submit my proposal here. So I will create a website and do my proposal there. So I'm going to submit this assignment. So this is something that my teacher is going to need to come in and score, okay? And so my next shows the final project submission, which again, I would put instructions on there, but let's leave the student view and go into the teacher view so that I can give them a score. And so we're going to give them a 1 because they're going to do the project. It would have been a 0 if they were to do an essay. Let's see if that changes what the student now sees. Coming back into modules. So you can see that yes, it did it correctly. So I see all of my Frankenstein, but I don't see any of the others. So I put in my proposal, I go off and I work on my assignment, and now I can come back and submit it. And again, when I come into grades, you're going to see that I have Frankenstein, I don't have Night or Lord of the Flies, because I was not sent down that path. However, when I look at modules from the teacher's perspective, that everything in that module included 3 items for Lord of the Flies, 3 for Frankenstein, 3 for Night, and then everybody had that final project submission. So I only saw this middle one. So providing choice. This is one where they would take an assessment, and then based on their score, they would go down a review path, a baseline path, or they can explore because they did so well. And then we're going to create a mastery path together. Any questions before we start building together? Okay. So at this point, I'm going to give you a minute to get into Canvas if you're not already, and get into a course that you can create a mastery path a part of without disrupting your students, and go ahead and create a module. And I'm just going to give this December 2nd test, okay, or whatever you want to name it. And then you're going to go ahead and add that. So I'll give you a minute to go ahead and create a new module. I'm going to move mine to the top. I don't have to keep scrolling. Okay. No. So the only way they work with those outside apps like Edpuzzle is if you link out to them, but you cannot embed them as an LTI tool within the mastery paths itself. So that is one kind of bummer. What you might do with something like that is have your mastery path first, and then if that Edpuzzle is assigned to everybody, that could be like the final work. But yeah, it's the LTIs. It needs to be a Canvas native, and we'll see how that works when we start building this. But that's a great question. Okay, so we're going to come here on our module here, and I'm going to click on the plus sign, and I'm going to add a page. And I'm going to call this page, I'm going to create a new page and give it the name, Everyone's Content. So this is basically the introduction to the activity or the lesson or whatever it is you want it to be. So that's a page. Okay. Go ahead and add a page. Okay. And you can add, again, this is for everybody. So here is somewhere where you could add an Edpuzzle as an LTI because everybody would have access to it, or, you can add other things. But for our sake today, we're just going to say our introductory content is all going to be on this one page. Now, for my purposes, I'm going to click on the plus button, and I'm going to add a text header to remind me that I need to have this source assignment as the next item. And again, this is something that everybody's going to do. Okay. So for my source assignment, again, it can be a quiz that's computer graded, so it will release the module within a fraction of immediate, as we saw. Or it can be an assignment that the teacher has to score before the items are released to the students. Or it can be a discussion that the teacher must grade before it can be released to the students. So for today, we're going to do a new quiz. So I'm going to click on the plus sign. And I'm going to come here to quiz. And we're going to create a new quiz. So I'm going to make sure it says new quiz if you still have the ability. And this quiz name is, I'm going to put the source assignment quiz. So we know it's a quiz. So the source assignment quiz, and you can add it to, an assignment group. I'm going to go ahead and indent it just for visual, but I'm going to add that new quiz. Now notice that I'm right now just building the structure. I'm not worried about the content yet, but I know I'm going to give a source quiz that will determine whether they go down a remedial path or an on-task path or an exploratory path. And I'm going to have the computer grade it so that this can be done whether it's at home or in class, giving them the opportunity to work independently while you're circulating and helping those who need more help. So go ahead and add a quiz, and we're just adding the item. We're not putting anything in it yet. If you don't have the option for new quiz, go ahead and do a classic quiz. And that's because it hasn't been turned on by your admin. Or it may be that you just only have new quiz. So if you add a quiz and it's this black rocket ship, then it's a new quiz. You can see down here that this is a white rocket ship. That's a classic quiz. So some instances, they don't even offer the option. So you won't see classic. So after my source assignment, I'm going to create my first path. So I'm going to do my text header to remind myself that this is going to be path number 1, and this is going to be my review path. It could be your choice number 1 path. It could be, whatever you want. Maybe it's a topic. So whether they're doing review or maybe they're choosing a topic that they want to research further, but all the topics have different instructions. And instead of giving all of the instructions to everybody, then you're only giving them instructions based on what topic they're choosing. So this would be great in, say a medical front office class where you want them to research whether it's PPI gear or the process of, taking vitals or the process of, and you want them to only see the instructions based on what they're choosing to research, then Mastery Path's a great way to do that. So in my first review path, again, this is the text header, so it's just reminding me, I'm going to provide some content followed by a discussion. Okay, so I'm going to add to my module a page, and I'm going to create a new page, and I'm going to give the name to path number 1 content page. And again, you would have different titles based on what what you're creating your path for. But down my path number 1, I'm going to include a page, and I'm going to include a discussion. So I'm going to create topic, and this is going to be my path number 1 discussion. So just create 2. If you want to try creating 3, that's fine, but create the items that you want to be a part of the first path. Okay. If I'm going too fast, let me know in the chat. We're going to do the same thing for path number 2 and path number 3. So adding a text header. Path number 2. This is going to be our new content. And then under path 2, I'm going to add another content page specific to that. So I'm going to create a new page, and I'm going to title it path 2 content page. Again, I like to indent. And then I'm going to create, for them, we're going to do a quick check for understanding as a quiz. So I'm going to create a quiz, and this is going to be my path number 2, check for understanding.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
That's it. See you next time.
See you next time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to do the same for path number 3. So take a minute and create 3 paths, starting with the text header and then 2 items. Okay, so I'll give you just a minute to get those in there. Okay. All right. We all ready to move to the next step? So this is our structure. Thank you. This is our structure. Again, I have not put in content yet. I haven't made my path, my actual mastery paths yet. We're just putting in the structure, because now I can go in and plug in content and not have to worry about where that goes or what should go first, because I've created the scaffolding, so to speak. And so I can come in here and edit this page with my introduction and resource links and whatever it is. I can create my source assignment quiz, and then I can create the content for each of these items that are in each of these paths. So what I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to go ahead and progress through this module and make sure that everything is assigned correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the first thing. Notice there's still no content here, and that's okay. So again, this is everyone's content. So we're not going to mess with the assigned to. We're just going to make it assigned to everyone. So go ahead and click on next to go to the source assignment quiz. So this is a source assignment quiz. Again, we want everyone to take. So we're going to leave that also assigned to everyone. Okay. We'll come back to this one once we've done this step. We're going to go through the module. We'll come back to this source assignment to create our mastery paths, but I'm not going to do that right now. Again, I like taking it step by step. So I'm going to go ahead and click on next. And in my path number 1 content page, this one does need to be assigned to mastery paths so that Canvas will automatically assign it to whoever goes down this path. So I'm going to go ahead and click on assign to, and instead of everyone, I'm going to X that out and put in mastery paths. And then click on save. Now here, you can't really see who it's assigned to. We have to go back to modules to see that. So we'll do that later. We're just going to click on next and do the same thing for our discussion or whatever it is that you have in here. So anything that I want to be assigned to specific paths, I'm going to come in and just quickly go through this module and change it from everyone to mastery paths. Oh, how come it didn't have that? Canvas keeps changing things on me. So I'll try mastery path in Canvas, but I don't think that's right, because that's a section. So I may not be able to do discussions as part of a mastery path anymore, but well, maybe if I go into edit. Yeah, I'm going to come into edit and see if I can do it there, because I did on the last one, I remember. Oh, I know why. You know why? Because it's not graded, right? So go ahead and go into edit, and we're going to make sure that it's graded, even if it's 0 points. But it needs to have that graded option checked in order to assign it to mastery paths. So instead of everyone, we're going to assign it to mastery paths. But you actually have to go into edit on discussions to click the graded box. And then assign to mastery paths. And then I'm going to save it. And make sure it knows that that's what I want to do. Yeah. And then I'm just going to click on next and do the same thing for my path 2 items. So go ahead and take a minute and change it from everyone to mastery paths. And remember, with new quizzes, we're going to click on save for right now. We're not going to go in and build yet. So if you click on build, that takes you in. And now I have to go back. The way new quizzes works is clunky, but we'll make it work. And then my path 3, I started with the discussion, so I actually have to go in and edit that so it's graded. And then assign to mastery paths. So I'll give you a minute to get those all assigned to mastery paths. And then when you're done, come back to your modules view. Thank you, Francis. Okay. This is the important part because you'll notice that we don't have any indication over here of whether they're part of a path or not because we haven't set that up. We've assigned them to master paths, but now we have to tell Canvas how to distribute those or release those. So we're going to go back here to our source assignment. So back in your module view, go ahead and click on your source assignment. Mine's a quiz. And then come over to your Mastery Paths tab. And this is where we're going to add the items in each of our, actually, I'm going to come back to details. We're going to say that this quiz is 10 points, okay? So we have to put our points in to make sure that this works. Again, another reason new quizzes, they still have some work to do, but so we're going to give it 10 points. And then I'm going to come here to my Mastery Paths tab. And if they get 8 to 10 points, so I'm going to change this to 8. If they get 8 to 10 points, I'm going to let them explore. If they get between, let's say 5, so I'm going to put 5 here, and 7.9 points, they're going to get new content. And if they get from 0 to 4.9 points, they're going to go down that review path, okay? So again, depending on their score out of these 10 points. So I'm now that I have my, not rubric, but the scores set up, now I can start adding things, the items to the path that they belong in. So if they need to review, they're going to go down this path here, path number 1. So I'm going to click on the plus sign, and you'll notice that it's showing me all items. Well, I know in path number 1, I have this content page, and this is where your naming conventions become important, because in order to find things, maybe, you know, it's easier. I started mine with path number 1 and then path number 1 discussion, but it's showing me everything. So that's another reason why, you know, naming convention and understanding your structure ahead of time. So I'm going to go ahead and check both of those items for my path number 1, and I'm going to add it. And it, again, here, it doesn't matter the order because my modules control the order. It's just that they need to do the content page and the discussion. So then I can go ahead and add my path number 2 items. So I'm going to scroll down here and find my path number 2 content page and my path number 2 check for understanding. And add those. And they have to do both of them. So that I've got the ampersand there. And then my Explorer folks, I'm going to go down here and find my path number 3 assignment and path number 3 idea discussion. Those are the 2 items that were part of my path 3. Now, you could give further choice. Maybe my Explorer folks, I either want them to do an assignment or I want them to do a discussion. So I'm going to click on the ampersand and change it to or. So if they get more than 8 points on this source assignment, they're going to have one more opportunity to choose whether they participate in the group discussion or they work independently on an assignment because of this or symbol. And if I want it back to and, I just click on it and it puts it back to and, but they will have the option of choosing either or. Any questions on the mastery paths and assigning those items to a path? My suggestion is to start simple. That's why my first one, I only had 2 paths. Because then what you can do is come in here, I'm going to save this. It's going to save that, but I haven't put any questions into the source assignment yet, so I can't test it until I do that. So that would be the next step. So I can come either, but you'll now also see that everything, oh, my exploration results didn't get part. So now I know I need to go back and fix this because it doesn't have that tag here. So in my source assignment, when I come into mastery paths, this above 8 points, that's where you're putting in your items. So from 0 to 4.9 points, they have path number 1. 5 to 7.9, they get path number 2. And if they get 8 points or more, 8 to 10 points, they're going to go down path number 3, and they have the choice of either doing the idea discussion or the assignment in this case. And I'm going to make sure that the assignment is assigned to mastery paths. It is. And I'm going to make sure that my discussion is assigned, no, not the quiz yet, graded and mastery path. So it is too. So it didn't show it in my modules correctly because it's an or. So now that you have your paths created, that's when you can come in and build. And we're just going to do one question for right now. So I'm going to add one question. I'm going to make it something that the computer can grade. So I'm going to do multiple choice. And my question stem, this is where I would put in the question. And then I would put in my answers. So I'm going to just put path 1 because we're testing it for right now. Path 2 and path 3. And I'm going to trash. And if you haven't used news quizzes yet, that's another webinar. But the nice thing is I can vary points by answer. So as long as I have this checked, I can say path 1, they're going to get, say, 2 points, right? Path 2, remember, they had to have at least 5 points. So we're going to make this worth 6 points. And path 3, they had to have at least 8 points. So we're going to give it 9 points, just so that you can see. And then we're going to go ahead and click on, nope, path 3 has to be, no, we're going to do that. And then click on done and click on return. But that's where you would put in your actual source assignment quiz questions or assignment instructions or whatever it is that you want them to do to determine, based on their score, which path they go down. Okay. Now, for sake of quickness, I'm going to go ahead and publish the module and all items. And then remember to go and unpublish just my text headers, because those were for me and not for my students, but it's quicker to do it that way. And then we can test it. So go ahead and test it. You go in as view student. You can see, I can see the introduction, but I can't see anything else yet. I'm going to go in and look at the introduction. I'm going to click on next to get into my source assignment. And I'm going to start my source assignment, and I'm going to test it and choose path 2, which will give me 6 points. Quizzes always takes a long time. Yes, I just admit. So I'm going to choose path 2, and then I'm going to click on submit and submit. And I'm going to return. And take a look at modules. And you can see, maybe, let's refresh. There we go. All I see is my path 2 content page and check for understanding quiz. I don't see anything else. So now I know it works. Now I can go and start plugging in my content, knowing that it works. So the question was, how do we make that so the source assignment underneath the build area, when you add a question that has, in this case, it's multiple choice. I'm going to go ahead and edit that. So I put in my answer options here, and then I check this vary points by answer box. And then I can vary this this area over here will show up where you can vary, you know, based on the answer they give, how many points they'll get. You cannot do this with classic quizzes. The vary points by answer is new quizzes only. Okay. Returning back to modules. I tested it, so I know it works. So now I can come in and plug in the actual content. What kind of question did you add? Multiple choice or something different? Okay, so if I click on the plus sign and I choose multiple choice, down here under options, you might need to expand options. You're going to click on vary points by answer. And then
Yes.
this area.
Yes, and I think I chose multiple answer. That's why. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I've got it.
Yeah, so that vary answers or vary scores by answer are just a couple of the computer generated or computer scored questions, but for sure multiple choice. Any questions? Now that you have a structure, and this is what I do a lot, I create the structure, I make sure it works, and then I use this as my template. So I'm actually going to come over here and edit my module. And this is going to be my mastery path template because I know that it worked. And so I can use this as a template for if I want to create mastery paths in the future. I just need to make sure that number one, everything is assigned correctly, whether it's assigned to everyone or assigned to mastery paths. I have to make sure that the source assignment has the mastery paths area set up. And then the source assignment has it set up so that it releases a grade so that they can be sent down the correct path. And if you go into help and search the Canvas guides and go into, we're going to search for mastery paths. And instead of searching the whole community, I like searching the knowledge base. So we're going to search for mastery paths because Canvas has this mastery paths. What are mastery paths? So a whole bunch of resources in here that has screenshots, and we'll walk you through it as well. And even videos. This has a video guide. So use the knowledge base to help you set yours up if something's not working. Any questions? Is admin access only available to institutions? Admin access, so no, well, if you're using Canvas for teachers free version, then yes, you will not have admin access. So you get that ability to have admin control over instances like OTAN and school, if your school has one, yeah. Any other questions? Anybody want to chime in how you might use mastery paths? So I'm mostly focused on, you know, sending people down a review path if they were absent or didn't quite get the content, but also using them for a release of content, maybe based on how they do on an assignment, or if, you know, you need to give them early access because they're going on a trip, but you don't want everybody to see it, that kind of thing, or giving them a choice, or this is another choice for remediation. So they could
reading books too, like reading different, or for professional development, different, giving a choice where an educator can choose which pathway they want to learn about. I mean, how often do we sit in staff meetings where, oh, wow, that doesn't pertain to me at all because I'm a blank type of educator. So I think mastery paths are just great for relevance and meaning, just
Yes,
so that we can hit everyone, for instance.
I agree. So you can set up a mastery path for your language arts teacher and one for your science teachers and one for your math teachers or your, and that way they're
Career
getting
tech.
content, career tech. So it's relevant to what
PE.
they're doing. Yeah, great ways of using it. Okay, well, if no one has any questions, that's all I have for you today. For those of you who always ask about the video, it's going to go through an accessibility process and it will be available on the OTAN website. And, it takes a little bit of time, but it will be available there when it's ready. Yes, exploration of a project topic and groups. That's a great way of using it too. Yeah.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah, you're
And
welcome.
thank you everyone for showing. And if anyone needs a certificate of completion, let me know and I can sign you up for that. Just put your name in the chat. It's great seeing you all. Happy Monday.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you so much.